Welcome home. Another story about Grandpa wisdom. Thought this week we would kind of split things up. We will discuss something that I believe should be taught that is a lost art. Courtesy. Yes, I believe this would be a much happier world and loving world if we showed more courtesy. What a concept. Being nice and courteous to one another. We will also have another camping story. An encounter with Bigfoot at the cabin? Well, you will have to determine what you think, but it is a very real story of what happened to my daughter and daughter-in-law. So, like, subscribe, and share. Catch up on past stories, and hang on. Going to be a wonderful educational ride. Let's go over a few ways to show courtesy that are very thoughtful actions showing love and concern for others and the opposite sex. Yes, girls and boys, things that the male population mostly can do to impress the female population. Grandpa may be old, but I do believe it is very important to show courtesy to the opposite sex. Let's talk about the courtesy of walking curbside when walking with your companion. When, in the days of wagons and carriages, the male would always walk closest to the roadside. This protected from mud when wagons or nowadays vehicles would drive too close to the walking paths. Showing courtesy and protection to your companion. Wearing a hat. As you can see, I wear a hat. Yes, it is a cowboy-style hat. I have worn them for many years and like the style and the cowboy lifestyle. It has always been common courtesy to take my hat off when entering someone else's house, church, school, or public building. It is not common now, perhaps because people don't wear hats as much as they used to. I did think it worth mentioning since in my area hats are more common. I am impressed when I see this happen. Touching or lifting one's hat or cap when greeting a female. Tipping your hat or in British English called doffing is just common courtesy. When dining, a man would pull out a chair for the woman he is with so she may sit down. Also, that same courtesy applies when she gets up. As I stated in a previous video, that is exactly what I do when I take my granddaughters out for dinner. Showing them proper manners and what should be expected. Offering your seat. It is just common courtesy to offer your seat to a female, expectant mother, elderly, or someone with disabilities if you are in a situation that they could use a seat and there are not any available. Standing. Yes, standing when being introduced or when the one hosting the dinner or event enters the room. These are just some common courtesy situations. Just think how these things could help change people's perspective of the world and how happy you can make someone's day by being, yes, courteous. Just an example in today's standards. I text a younger person, yes, I am including my own family members. They ignore the communication for days when a response would have been appropriate and answered any question. They do not have the courtesy to even acknowledge they received it. I make sure to respond to any communication, just courtesy. I certainly want to point out that those that do respond, it is greatly appreciated, and for sure it is obvious there is a much closer relationship with them. Just including a little family drama, as I said from the beginning, I would share. Feel free to go back and watch my first video. Once again, I will give you a biblical reference that you can look up, Titus 3:2. My grandpa wisdom is not to preach but to give you the basis and some background into how to treat people. After all, grandkids are our future, and I believe our responsibility to teach in making a better world for all of us. As I believe our Creator gave us the instruction book for us all to have enjoyable, wonderful lives. Example, books of Kings and Judges. If they were heeded, we would have much better world governments. You can read those too. One other while we are here is how futuristic the Bible or our instruction book is. After all, it knew all about fracking before modern-day oil men knew about it. Deuteronomy 32:13. My studies all come from the Faithful Version Bible. Please look up and feel free to comment. Now let's get back to the cabin. On one of our trips, and just to add some background, we enjoy night rides on the four-wheelers. This was a trip when the whole family was there. After a great meal and storytelling by the fire and of course the telephone game with Grandpa, it was well after dark. The grandkids were all ready for bed. After they went to bed, their parents wanted to go on a late-night ride. This was something that we all enjoyed. And sometimes a late-night walk to the lake. The lake was about a mile away. Tonight, the parents wanted to go on a ride, and as they were all there, it was a wonderful time for all of them to spend time together. As Grandpa, I volunteered to stay at the cabin to watch the grandkids. After all, they were all sleeping, so Grandpa's job wasn't going to be too hard. All of the grandkids' parents loaded up on four-wheelers. It was very late and very dark. They left Grandpa eating their dust as they rode away. Well, another cup of coffee that was waiting for me on the Coleman stove while I grab a book and wait for parents to return. They could be gone a couple of hours. At least Grandpa knew he had a comfortable camping chair. If you want to catch up on how to pick the right camping chair, it is on a previous video. Check it out and let me know if I'm right. Well, Grandpa is settling in for the wait. Now to tell you about their trip and their experience with Bigfoot, or whatever you want to call it. They did not get back until well after midnight. They rode to Lookout Point. It is a high point about 3 miles away. A beautiful spot. Very dark, I'm sure, when they got there. Well, nature called and the girls decided to walk a trail there away from the guys. One thing you learn about riding anywhere, anytime is, you take paper for emergencies. As the girls walked up the trail, they walked up a distance to be far enough away. They had flashlights but had not checked the batteries. Lessons learned. The light was very weak. As they walked, they were talking and having girl talk, laughing and giggling as girls do, not paying too much attention to their surroundings. Then suddenly they heard a branch snap in the woods where they were walking down the trail. They both said, "Quiet," at the same time. Did you hear that? Well, they both heard it. They shined their lights out into the woods but couldn't see anything. They decided to keep walking, but very quietly. As they walked, they could hear something taking steps as they would take steps. They took a few more steps, needing to take care of business, which was the reason they walked away from the guys in the first place. The guys had the guns for protection after all, as from a previous video we know there are bears on the mountain. There was a very large crack beside them in the woods. That was it. They couldn't run fast enough back to the guys with the guns. They were screaming. Time to go. They fired up the four-wheelers and headed back to the cabin. I am sure they probably made it back in record time. Well, here we all are now. Grandpa kept the fire going. The girls had a story to tell, that's for sure. They stayed up telling Grandpa about it. Had to be at least 3 in the morning before they felt safe enough to get some shut-eye. Well, as for the girls, they are definitely believers. While we don't know what was in those woods, those girls sure do. I am sure they will have batteries for their flashlights next trip. Please like, subscribe, and share. Grandpa will be back in about a week. So if you haven't already, you can go back and catch up on my previous videos. I am having so much fun and want to bring you along with me. Come back and we will discuss the grandkids some more.